Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Book Spotlight. And here I am holding a book by a guy with a different name. Now, actually this is my name. This is a pseudonym that I used to write this book because this book is a love story and I normally do superheroes and monsters, and as is common in the publishing industry, if you kind of veer like way outside your genre or your typical genres, it's common to use a pen name. So at the time of this book, I used a pen name, and Fox is Fuchs in English, so that's where that comes from. So April, before I start, and I'm going to try to keep this brief, I want to set the tone for this book. For starters, it's a love story. It's not a romance, even though it needs to be marketed as such, given the nature of the biz, but that's a separate moment or topic I'll get to in a second. But I want to set the tone about this book, because this book is super special to me. See, every writer, like if they took all their titles and lined them all up in a row and then just kind of went like, okay, that one and that one and then that one, eventually they're going to hit a book where they're going to have a pause. They're going to pause for a sec. And then they're going to go that one and that one and that one again, and so on. And maybe another book down the line, they'll have a pause. And the reason for that is because certain books in a writer's catalog, yes, we have a lot of fun, and yes, they're all very special, but at the same time, there are those few that are like special. And April, for me, is one of those special books. It was the third book I ever wrote. I wrote 2 horror novels prior. One was A Stranger Dead, which was published, is currently out of print. The second one is called For the Cause, which was the biggest writing lesson of my life, and the manuscript got destroyed by the editor, and that one is presently just not available, period. But April, so I switched things up completely, and this was written at a time in my life where I was really missing somebody. Someone very, very special, and someone who was a game changer for me. Every life has a turning point. We all have them, and if you haven't had yours, eventually it'll come, and where things are just not the same after a certain event. And in this case, yeah, something happened where I was just not the same after. There was a person, and they were very special, and I lost them. And but in the end, we got April out of this. And so the story is about a comic book writer who, he's self-employed, does his own thing. He lives downtown. His name is Joseph Bailey, who later becomes Joe Bailey in my Undead World trilogy, but this is where he starts. And so Joseph writes comics, and then what ends up happening is he's at the coffee shop doing the comic book, notebook thing, and this girl just sits down in front of him, and she's like, "Mind if I sit here?" And he's like, "All right." And it turns out she's trying to get away from this, more overbearing boyfriend, whose name is Dan, and she just is using Joseph kind of as a excuse to not be involved with this guy. But what this does is this catapults them, Joseph and April, into this weekend. And this book is divided as such. It's Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And it's a 3-day journey, and it's a commentary on love, on relationships, on the heart, on the mind. It's everything that's associated with love. And it's about big love. It's about the love that changes you. It's about finding that person who just, it works. It is what it is, and it just clicks, and the chemistry's there, and the connection is there, and there's just no one else like them. And that's kind of, the bottom line underscore of this whole thing, of this book, is that. And what I wanted to do was comment on love. Like, it was written at a time in my personal life where I had all my friends understood that I was going through a rough time, but they didn't really understand. And so April was sort of my way of writing out what I was feeling through the filter of fiction, of course. But yeah, writing out what I was feeling, because I had no place to really put those feelings, to express those feelings. I had no one who could relate, but I thought, well, if I wrote a book, then perhaps there's going to be somebody out there who gets it. And, given the 5-star reviews, I guess there are people who get it. Now, as for the physical book itself. There's two versions, well, two versions of the book in the context of the paperback and then the ebook. You'll notice that the ebook has a different cover than the paperback. The paperback, this is the original. I know it looks kind of boring. The train is significant for part of the story. At the time, yeah, it seemed to fit. It does need a bit of an overhaul, but this is the original edition, and this is the edition that people pick up and people ask me about and ask me for a copy about. So let me read the synopsis, and it's the start at the top. At the back here, it has an excerpt from the book itself, and it just simply says, "All that is held clear to me fades, like the wee hours of the morning when my favorite band fills the radio." And that's an excerpt from the book. But this is the actual synopsis. "Some moments come along and your world, your life, changes. Something shifts inside and everything's the same, yet somehow different. Sometimes someone comes into your life and helps you to breathe for the first time, to think with clarity, and to give you truth and joy. Often, we never see it coming, but it also happens when we need it the most, and, usually, when we don't realize how much we need it. From a quiet night in an old railway car, to seeking the undertones of humanity at the art gallery, to bringing to light the tender commonalities we as humans all share, April is a story of how a simple chance meeting can hold you and protect you and give you what the human heart is continuously after: hope." And that's this book. And I just want to do a quick segue into the genre side of things. This is a love story, not a romance. There is a difference. Romance typically, I mean, again, broad brushing, but typically, romance is, boy meets girl or girl meets guy, and there's some sort of, formulaic tension where, they like each other, but they can't be together for some reason, and then they come together in the end and live happily ever after. That's typically your romance novel. Love stories are a bit different. They tend to be more bittersweet. They tend to be more tug at the heartstrings. They tend to be more, in my opinion, based on the romance books that I've read versus the love stories I've read, they tend to be more down to earth, more realistic, more, this is how life is. This is how life is when it comes to love. And again, like I said earlier in the video, like what it does to a person. And so that's what separates it. Unfortunately, just due to the nature of the publishing machine, I have to market it as a romance, because if I market it as a love story, in the common reader's eyes, they're like, well, love, romance, what's the difference, right? But now I just explained to you the difference. So if you're a fan of things like Nicholas Sparks' The Notebook, or Eric Siegel's Love Story, or even the music of Counting Crows, for example, you'll definitely dig April. That's for sure. Guaranteed. And then as a last side note, there was a short story also written by Peter Fuchs called My Angel and Me. It's a short story. It's digital only, so it's ebook only, but it's available. So if you enjoyed April, feel free to check out My Angel and Me, because again, it's the same tone as a love story, and it's meant to hit you, right there where it counts. So thank you for tuning in. This is my my third book I ever wrote. I wrote it in 3 weeks. I wrote it after the graveyard shift at a job. I'd come home, take a few minutes, and then hit the computer and plow out a chapter or something, and then that would be my day. Then I go to bed. So yeah, please check out April. It's available all the usual places, as you know, and also too, you can get it through your local bookstore. And if you have any questions, of course, leave comments, send me an email. You know the rules. I'm always accessible. That's the rule, right? And yeah, thank you so much. Have yourself a good day. We'll see you next Book Spotlight. Cheers.